Touhou LostWord has two new Conflux stages, a Marisa stage and a Youmu stage. And now there are 6 difficulties for each stage, ranging from C to EX. Gamepress always has missing stage analysis for some reason, so today I'm going to analyze these new stages. Just like last time, the main reward is this 5-star story card rather than blood, which is like overwhelming firepower, but it gives more yin attack stats. And if you clear both the Marisa and Youmu stage at all the threat levels, you get 10 copies of the card, which is enough for 2 max limit break copies. What's interesting is that you can actually get 2 copies of the card from clearing threat level A at 3 stars, meaning without having any characters die. And threat level A is supposedly relatively easy. So even if you're a new player or not so experienced, and if you clear threat level A for both Youmu and Marisa stages, and then if you're also able to clear threat level S for either of the stages, you get enough copies of the card to get a max limit break copy. Now let's do some stage analysis, starting with the Youmu stage on the highest difficulty. This stage is loosely based on the Conflux battle from last time, featuring 3 Youmus. Many changes have been made, and a lot of them actually make the stage easier. Overall, the general strategy doesn't seem to have changed. At the start, there's no longer any Grace luck, but there's still skill luck, as well as focus shot luck, and more importantly skill luck. Most likely, you'll still see people switching into the backline at the start to get rid of this skill luck. Additionally, the enemies now have Yang and Yin defense up at the start. The Yang defense doesn't really do anything because Youmu still has that Yang defense up skill, which gives 7 levels of Yang defense, and Gardener has her character ability, which gives 3 levels of Yang defense every turn because she boosts 3 times every turn, and this is the same as last time. However, the Yin defense here at the start as well as at Gates 1 break is new, and I think it's likely there to prevent nukers like Loliko from cheesing the stage because of the new spell card items. That's right, all the enemies now drop spell card items, which is insane. These items will restore your last word if the last word has been used of all your characters, or if a last word has not been used, they will restore a random spell card. This is a huge nerf to the stage as it gives you a lot more cards to work with. Even though they added some Yin defense buffs to this stage, it still favors Yin attackers because Youmu did get a Yang attack down skill which she didn't have last time. This basically means you want to full break her and then kill her on the next turn, because when she's full broken, she cannot use any skills. They also added 5 levels of evasion from the start for 3 turns, and I'm really not a big fan of this. A lot of newer characters like Blue Moo and Hunter x Hunter Flan have party-wide accuracy, and with multiple characters with party-wide accuracy, you basically get to ignore this evasion up because you can just stack accuracy from each other. However, older characters tend to not have accuracy at all, and even if you use a story card to boost accuracy, you'll be stuck at 3 levels of accuracy against 5 levels of evasion, and you'll miss lots of breaks. If you don't have any of those good newer characters, what you might end up having to do is keep on resetting the stage until you get lucky and hit your breaks. This is just not fun. I think 5 levels is too much, and I'm not a fan of mechanics that makes a large proportion of characters feel unusable in the stage. Another change that they have made is the lowered duration of these locks. This spellcard lock as well as boost lock has been reduced from 5 turns to 3 turns. However, I don't think this will be that impactful, as most of the time, you'll want to switch out when you get hit by these locks anyway. However, the reduced duration on this switch lock is pretty impactful. Previously, the strategy was to kill the bottom Youmu on turn 2, so that this switch lock would expire by turn 5, and on turn 5 you would kill the top 2 Youmus, which would trigger these other locks. Now, you have more time to kill the bottom Youmu. You can kill the bottom Youmu on turn 3 instead of turn 2, which gives you more time to break her and deal damage to her. And then you can still kill the top 2 Youmus on turn 5, and not be switch locked, so you can switch to the back line. So basically, you have a whole additional turn to kill the bottom Youmu. One more thing to note is that the middle Youmu will restore 3 of her barriers every turn, as opposed to every other turn last time. Previously, she would restore 3 barriers whenever she used a spell card, which is every other turn, and now it's every turn. This does make it harder to full break her, but again, because of the shared weakness now, I think it'll overall be easier to full break these enemies. And the final notable change are these 5 paralyzed anomalies the top Youmu will inflict on her party upon gates 2 break. This means that paralyzed breakers will be quite effective in this stage as the enemies do self-inflict paralyze. The freeze anomalies that were present last time were not changed, so just like last time, freeze anomaly breakers will also be very useful. Overall, I think this stage has become a lot easier with the changes. Even though their defenses have increased slightly, the shared weakness as well as the spell card item that they drop for now should make the stage easier to complete. Generally, you should be able to follow the same strategy as last time, full breaking the enemies and then gates bursting them at the right time to avoid and switching to avoid these nasty lucks. Just make sure you take into account the evasion up at the start, as well as Dark Myon's ability to restore 3 barriers every turn from her skill instead of 3 barriers every other turn from using her spell cards. So that was it for the Youmu stage, and now let's take a look at the Marisa stage. Immediately, you can see the enemies have all have shared weaknesses of Sun, Wood and Star. So the first thing I'm thinking is that this is a Blue Moo stage because Blue Moo has lots of Sun and Wood. We are already at Marisa EX where Blue Moo is obviously very good, and now we have this stage where the enemies all have Sun and Wood weaknesses, and even in the Youmu Conflux stage, they added this. With the addition of these paralyzed anomalies, Blue Moo becomes a lot better as well, and they also made MSM weak to Sun. I guess it's a pretty standard marketing strategy. Make a strong character, make it very hard to get, and then make some good stages for her so that people will buy that character. Anyway, back to the stage analysis. If you look at the enemy defense values, the HP and multiplied by defense, you can see that it's significantly lower than the Youmu stage, especially for Dark Myon, who has a lot of HP and defense. The bottom Marisa also only has 1 gauge, and the bottom 2 Marisas drop spell card items, so this stage probably doesn't have a very high damage requirements, except you'll notice that the top Marisa has no barriers. This means that she cannot be full broken. She also has a skill which gives herself defense up, and her party members also give some defense up at the start and at some gates bursts. So dealing enough damage to this top Marisa will probably be the biggest challenge in defeating this stage because she has the defense buffs which cannot be removed via full break, which is normally how you deal with defense buffs. In order to deal with this, you probably need to use some debuffers to reduce her defense buffs, or use a very strong nuke like Blue Moo obviously to kill her off. However, because of the spell items and the relatively low defense and HP compared to some other stages of this enemy, you can probably get by spamming a few powerful last words at the right time and making use of these spell items to refresh those last words and throwing them at her again. But before you can even think about killing off these enemies, there's a problem you will face immediately upon entering the stage, as you will be Grace locked and Switch locked. And Altarisa seems to have a skill that will inflict 7 burn to your whole party, and all the enemy shots break burns. Basically, if she uses this skill, then your whole party will be full broken on turn 1, and then you'll probably just die. So I'm not sure what this is about, because if this is accurate, that means that you basically have to reset until Altarisa uses skill 1 instead of skill 2 at the start of every battle. So that's just maybe this skill is meant to only be used when Altarisa is at 0 to 25% HP. That would make a lot of sense because this skill looks very similar to Altarisa's skills in Star Extra, where at under 25% HP she would inflict paralyze to herself. Regular Marisa also has this skill too, which is quite devastating, and it kinda looks like it is a skill that triggers at low HP, but it doesn't say here, so maybe the information is missing. If this is truly at 50-50 whether she uses this skill or this skill, then the best strategy might end up being to reset until she doesn't use this skill at the wrong time, so that's just not fun. So I guess we'll see when we start trying out the stage. The stage also has some lucks. We have this switch luck over here, and we have some boost lucks whenever the top Marisa gates burst. And this boost luck is quite devastating because it makes it hard to inflict breaks, and it also makes it hard to do a lot of damage because you can't boost. It's a little bit difficult for me to say how this stage will go without trying it out, but basically it looks like you'll be killing the bottom Marisa first, since she has only one gauge, which will drop her bomb item, and then you kill Altarisa, and then you kill the top Marisa, who will probably be the last to die because because you can't full break her and you need the most damage to kill her. So, and one more thing to note is that Altarisa, well, she does inflict burn to her party. She herself is immune to burn, and the bottom Marisa seems to have this cleansing skill, and the top Marisa has no barriers. So this Marisa has no barriers and can't be burned, this Marisa is immune to burn, and this Marisa has this cleansing skill apparently. So anomaly breaks don't look very good in this stage. Altarisa does inflict 7 blind on herself, and the second gates burst, so that can be quite useful, but there aren't like a whole lot of friends that break blind, and you might be better off just getting Sun, Wood and Star breaks, because you can break both of these Marisas with those breaks, and it's also good for dealing damage to the top Marisa. So at the first glance, to summarize this stage, the biggest issue is dealing with the top Marisa, because she cannot be full broken and she has all these defense buffs, so you do need quite a lot of damage to kill her off, most likely. And also on turn 1 you will be graze locked and switch locked, so you cannot graze and you have to find a way to survive that first turn. Additionally, there are also various other locks, switch lock over here, some boost locks, graze lock, boost lock, which you will need to dance around as you tackle this stage. If I manage to complete it, then you might see a guide for this stage from me. And if you want to see how I tackled this Myon stage last time, although it's a bit different this time, then check out this earlier video. Bye bye.